I'm Kayla. I'm going to be your occupational therapist. I hear you had surgery yesterday to correct a fracture you had on your radius and within your forearm. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I fell off my horse the other day and I fractured, I guess, my arm. And I got surgery yesterday, but they told me I needed to come see you for something to wear.
Okay, so yes, we're gonna make you, it's called a Muenster Orthosis, and that it really is just gonna stabilize your wrist so that you're in a neutral position, which just means like this. We don't want you to do any twisting this way or this way, so no rotation of the wrist, but we do want to allow you to have full flexion and extension of your elbow. So just a little bit more information about kind of why we're putting you in that position within that orthosis. I'm sure your surgeon probably told you, but within your arm you have your radius on your thumb side and your ulna on your pinky side. So your fracture is about right here. And what we really want to prevent is, it's called the distal radio-ulnar joint, which just means distal is down by your fingers, and the radio-ulnar joint's right here, and that's what allows the forearm rotation to happen. And so we really want to stabilize your radius and keep it in that position so that you can heal faster and your fracture will heal correctly. So we just really want that to be immobilized.
Okay.
So for this kind of pattern, usually you would put the wrist like this, but we don't want to injure yours at all.
Like how?
You would put it this way, but your wrist is already stabilized this way with the plates and the screws you had from surgery. So we're going to go ahead and draw it this way, and the things you really want to be aware of is just making sure you get far enough back, because you're going to have some straps that extend over your bony prominences, your medial and lateral epicondyles. And then also your distal palmar crease right here is this part in your hand. You want to make sure that you will be able to touch all your fingers together while wearing this orthosis. So because your hand is not like this, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of make a little guesstimate as to how wide this should be, because you want the pattern to be as circumferential as possible. You really want it to be able to wrap around your entire wrist for the most stabilization you can have. Okay. All right, so this pattern is not very pretty, but it will get the job done. Okay, you can go ahead and move your wrist for me, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a thumb hole as well. That can be cut out. So we will take it from there. And the good thing about the material we're using is that it is able to stretch pretty far. So if I find that the material wasn't long enough, I can always just pull it while it's activated and it will become long enough. Okay, so I've gone ahead and finished drawing the pattern. And something I forgot to mention before is this piece right here needs to be cut out so that she will have a little space right here for that elbow flexion and extension. So we're going to go ahead and place this on. And so as you can see, this is going to, these straps or flaps as you would call them, are going to need to be a little bit longer, and so that's something that I'll make a note of before I draw it onto the thermoplastic material. And also the palmar crease is in the correct spot. She will be able to bend just fine with this pattern. And we're going to make it as circumferential as possible, so we just want it to be really close down here, which it is, so that's pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and draw it onto thermoplastic material. So the material that I have chosen to do Kelsey's orthosis is called Aquaplast. It's 332 is the size and the thickness of it. It has moderate resistance to stretch, which is good for those straps. Like I said, you're going to want to be able to pull a little bit farther if you need to make sure that it's covering the elbow. This material, once it's activated and wet, it doesn't take that long to activate, probably about a minute. It also has really excellent what we call conformability and drape, so it will lie really nicely. It will just fall into the places it needs to be, and there's not really much shaping you need to do with your hands. And it also has 100% elastic memory, so if you do make a mistake, you can put it back in the water and it will reactivate, and that will have it go back to its original shape. So mistakes are okay if it's something you're doing for the first time or you want to change something you're not sure about. And this particular color turns opaque, or turns kind of a clear color when it's wet, and then it dries again just a little bit more, more of a white color. So some tips for anybody making these, some fabrication tips that you want to keep in mind while you are drawing your pattern and while you are cutting it out and placing it on your client. The intention of the orthosis is to stabilize the radius and the distal radial ulnar joint, and the best way to do that is to make the orthosis as circumferential as possible. So you really want to keep that in mind as you're drawing and as you're draping the material over your client's arm. And the long proximal extensions over the lateral and medial epicondyles should be tall enough and come up high enough so that the strap can clear the elbow when the arm is in full extension. And the thumb hole should, once cut out, obviously it's not right now, once it's cut out and on the client, it should clear the thenar eminence so that they are able to oppose, as well as the distal palmar crease needs to be showing so that they can have that opposition and bend their hand. And padding should be placed on the inside of the medial and lateral epicondyle where those flaps are going to be so that you have protection of the bony prominences. And the orthosis should allow for full elbow flexion and extension as well. So this is the finished Muenster Orthosis that we have made for Kelsey. Throughout the process of making it, there was some pinching and tightness right around here. That's the part that goes on your forearm, and when she was flexing, it was a little bit too tight, so we went back and we pulled the edges out as much as we could. We also made some adjustments. This was a little bit too circumferential, so we went ahead and cut some off. And also we smoothed this area right here, so the area around her thumb will feel much better. And we placed 4 straps because we really do want this to be as secure as possible, 3 over the forearm and 1 over the back of the elbow. So I'm gonna go ahead and have you place this on your wrist. Okay. And so you just wanna make sure that you get these strapped up correctly. And so one thing to keep in mind is when you're strapping, don't take both ends off, just take one end off so that you know which strap belongs to which chunk of Velcro. All right. And this last strap, you can go ahead and put your arm, there you go. This last strap goes around the back of the elbow, and as you can see on ours and how I had described before, these flaps over the medial and lateral epicondyles should be a little bit further and higher up. Unfortunately, that was something that was overlooked in the process of making this, so we tried the best we could to make the strap do its job, but this is still going to protect her and not have her rotate. She still has no ability to rotate. So before we let Kelsey go home, we are just gonna talk about how often she needs to wear it, which for this orthosis, since she just had surgery yesterday, she is going to be wearing this orthosis full time so that the structure involved, the radius, is able to heal properly. And so she's also going to do some gentle elbow range of motion exercises to prevent contractures. So make sure that even though it might be more comfortable to keep it this way, you are actively doing this at least a few times a day, making sure that you are going through those motions. And like I said, by wearing this orthosis full time, it allows the radius to be in an optimal position, which will really, really help it heal properly. With that being said, I just wanted to thank you for being part of this instructional, educational video for everybody.